The film opens with a disturbing scene. In a dark, shadowy space, we witness a terrifying entity. Its body is split into two sections, and from its torso, several human-like hands are reaching out. This monstrous figure is devouring a corpse. Before we can make sense of what's happening, the scene abruptly cuts to black, leaving behind a sense of dread and mystery. We are then introduced to Megan, a woman in her 30s, returning to her parents' home. Her face carries a quiet sadness, and it becomes clear that she hasn't been here in a while. Her father, Robert, is dying of cancer, and his condition has worsened significantly. Her mother, Barbara, has been taking care of him around the clock, rarely leaving his side. Seeing her once strong father in such a vulnerable state deeply affects Megan. She begins smoking again, although she hides it from Barbara, knowing her mother would scold her. Megan feels that Barbara has always been over-controlling, which is one of the reasons she had left home years ago. We learn later that their strained relationship has a long history, rooted in control, misunderstanding, and emotional distance. After smoking outside, Megan goes inside and walks into Robert's bedroom. She notices the carpet is stained and begins cleaning it. While doing so, she finds a small cloth pouch hidden under the bed. Out of curiosity, she opens it, and to her horror, finds human teeth inside. Disgusted, she throws them away in the trash. As the audience, we also spot other strange items scattered in the room, objects used in rituals. It seems Barbara has recently turned to spiritual practices or folk rituals, something Megan clearly disapproves of. Later, when Barbara finds out Megan has thrown the pouch away, she retrieves it and places the teeth back inside. Megan realizes this isn't just random superstition. Her mother believes in these rituals deeply, most likely influenced by her yoga instructor, Deborah. Megan tries to reason with her mother, but Barbara dismisses her as someone who always sees the world negatively. Megan doesn't argue much further. She understands her mother is emotionally overwhelmed, and her father's illness has changed her. We see Robert suffering in his bed. Barbara gives him morphine to ease his pain, but strangely, she insists on administering it herself and never allows Megan to help. That same day, a nurse named Nikki comes to check on Robert. When she prepares to give him his medicine, she realizes that Barbara has been giving only half doses. Nikki warns her that Robert is in pain and deserves full doses, but Barbara stubbornly insists that too much medicine worsens his condition. Later, Nikki speaks privately with Megan. She informs her that Barbara is not only reducing the dosage, but sometimes skipping doses entirely. Megan recalls moments when Robert, writhing in pain, would cry out specifically for Barbara, possibly because he associated her with relief, even though she was the one prolonging his suffering. There's a sense that Barbara doesn't want to let go of her husband, and she's emotionally clinging to him in unhealthy ways. Although Megan and her mother are not especially close, Barbara opens up about her fear. She confesses that once Robert is gone, she won't know who she is anymore. Her entire identity is tied to him. This emotional confession adds depth to Barbara's strange behavior and helps Megan understand that her mother is not just misguided, but also terrified of being alone. The tension grows when Megan asks her mother for money. She has been running a scholarship program for underprivileged children and needs support. Robert had once promised to help her financially if needed, but now Barbara refuses, saying that grown children shouldn't ask their parents for money. The two argue briefly, but Megan backs off, knowing her mother is already under enormous emotional stress. That evening, Megan asks Barbara to step out of the house for a while, just to clear her head. Barbara reluctantly agrees, but she doesn't go far. She turns the car around and returns quietly. We learn that she has been collecting strands of her own hair, keeping them in a box. Her scalp is wounded from pulling too much hair. She's using these strands, along with her wedding ring and other personal items, to create a ritual amulet, possibly preparing for some kind of spell or spiritual ceremony. Meanwhile, back in Robert's room, Megan hears strange scratching sounds coming from the walls, as if something is crawling behind them. But before she can investigate further, Robert cries out in pain. Megan quickly gives him morphine before the scheduled time to calm him down. Watching him in pain brings back a childhood memory. one where Robert gently explained the concept of death to her after a bird had died outside their home. He had said that death isn't something to fear because it's what makes life so precious. That moment had stayed with Megan for years. Eventually, Megan falls asleep beside her father, emotionally exhausted. When she wakes up, she's startled to see Robert standing by his bed, paranoid and frightened. He keeps saying, "They're watching us." Megan gently puts him back to bed, trying to calm him down. As she walks to the bathroom, she senses that Barbara is back home. When she checks, she realizes that Barbara has also given Robert morphine, meaning he received a double dose. The two argue briefly, blaming each other for the mistake. Despite the tension, both decide to stay by Robert's side for the night, just in case things get worse. The next morning, Megan wakes up to a heartbreaking discovery. Robert has passed away. She is devastated, crying uncontrollably, but Barbara remains eerily composed. In a rare moment of shared grief, mother and daughter embrace each other. But this is just the beginning. Shortly after, Megan sees Barbara speaking quietly on the phone with someone. When asked about it, Barbara casually tells her, "We need to keep Robert's body cool until tonight." Megan is confused. She assumes they should be preparing for a funeral, not trying to preserve the body. Barbara then reveals something shocking. Her yoga instructor Deborah had told her about an occultist practitioner, someone who can supposedly bring the dead back to life. Barbara believes that if they follow the ritual exactly as instructed, they can bring Robert back. Megan is stunned. She tries to make sense of what she's hearing. To her, this is pure delusion. No rational person would believe such a thing. She's angry, frustrated, and heartbroken. Megan tells her mother that someone is clearly exploiting her grief and that the dead cannot be brought back. But Barbara refuses to listen. She's desperate and fully committed to the idea. Megan storms outside, needing space to breathe. As she smokes, she imagines seeing her father sitting beside her, calm, warm, and comforting. She speaks to him in her mind, asking what she should do. The image of Robert gently tells her, "Your mother's heart is broken. Stay with her. She'll realize the truth soon. This is not a ghost. It's Megan's inner voice trying to make peace with her pain." Taking a deep breath, Megan returns inside. Instead of fighting her mother, she says something unexpected. "I'll help you." Barbara is relieved. The two begin preparing the house for the ritual. They clean out a room and light dozens of candles, following exact instructions Barbara had received. All mirrors are covered. No outside light is allowed. As Megan is covering one mirror with a cloth, she briefly sees two glowing eyes staring at her. She turns quickly. No one is there. But when she looks again, she sees multiple eyes watching her from the reflection. Shaken, Megan steps outside to gather herself. Outside, Barbara continues burning personal belongings that had meaning to Robert, his favorite items, including a few childhood photos. Megan finds a photo of herself as a child and tries to keep it, but Barbara says everything must be burned for the ritual to work. During their discussion, Barbara confesses something painful. Robert had never wanted Megan to dance, and it was his decision to pull her out of dance school, not Barbara's. All these years, Megan had blamed her mother, thinking she was the one who had crushed her dreams. This revelation shakes her. According to the ritual, they must both bathe and wear plain yellow clothing. Barbara is deeply invested in this ceremony. Megan, on the other hand, still doesn't believe, but she participates for her mother's sake. Later, Megan gently tries to convince her that there's still time to stop, that they don't have to do this. But Barbara explodes. She accuses Megan of being the one who always walks away. "You left us before," she says. "This is easy for you. You've always run away when things got hard." The argument becomes heated. Megan finally yells back, saying that she left because Barbara always tried to control her, just like she tried to control Robert. The mother and daughter clash, years of emotional tension spilling out in raw, painful words. Just then, a knock comes at the door. The occultist has arrived. He's a strange, elderly man with unsettling energy. He walks in silently and starts sniffing Megan and Barbara, as if sensing their presence on another level. Then he inspects Barbara's hair and teeth. Megan realizes the teeth she had found earlier in the pouch were Barbara's own teeth. She had pulled them out herself for the ritual. Her scalp wounds now make sense. Barbara had also been pulling out her own hair. Barbara had already lowered the room temperature to preserve Robert's body. Now she places the amulet she created, made of her own hair and wedding ring, around Robert's neck. Together, the women carry Robert's corpse into the ritual room and lay him within a carefully drawn circle surrounded by ancient symbols and lit candles. Barbara hands the occultist a large bag of money. Megan is shocked and asks how much she paid him. Barbara calmly says, "Everything. My life savings." That explains why she had refused to give Megan money earlier. She had already given it all away for this ritual. Megan is horrified. She pleads with Barbara to think ahead. If this works, and he comes back, what then? We'll have no money left. How will we live? But Barbara doesn't care. "I just want him back," she says. Megan starts to walk out again, but the image of her father once more stops her. His voice, her conscience, says, "Don't leave your mother alone with this man." Reluctantly, Megan returns. Inside the ritual room, the occultist begins. Strange objects hang from the ceiling, the air feels heavier, and an eerie silence fills the space. The occultist draws a symbolic circle and writes in an ancient script around it. Robert's body, naked and still, lies at the center. Barbara explains the process. They must offer 3 sacrifices. After the first 2, their spirits will enter the spirit realm. After the 3rd, Robert will return. The occultist begins with the first offering, their tears. Barbara thinks of Robert and cries, giving her tears to the occultist. Megan struggles, unable to cry on command. So the occultist places his hand over her eyes, triggering painful memories. Robert yelling at her for dancing, Barbara being silenced by him. Megan realizes the father she idealized wasn't perfect. Finally, she begins to cry. The occultist collects her tears. Then comes the second sacrifice, blood. Without hesitation, the occultist slices off one of Barbara's fingers. She remains calm, ready for the pain. Megan, paralyzed and horrified, watches helplessly as he cuts off one of her fingers too. Her body is numb from the earlier ritual food, which had paralyzed her. Their blood is smeared over Robert's corpse. The occultist begins chanting in an ancient tongue. Then he instructs the mother and daughter to hold hands and repeat the chant. As they do, the room starts to shake. The circle glows. There's blinding white light. And then, silence. When they open their eyes, the world around them has changed. As the ritual ends, Megan and Barbara open their eyes. They are still inside the circle, but everything around them has changed. The candle flames burn steadily, yet the outside is swallowed by complete darkness. Robert's body is missing. The ritual room feels eerie, like the walls are now part of another world. Suddenly, the occultist begins making strange noises. His body twitches, and as he turns, Megan and Barbara are horrified to see that his jaw is missing, completely gone. He's in pain. He just stares at them, grotesque and silent, before being dragged out of the circle by some unseen force. They realize instantly the occultist is dead. Just as panic starts to set in after the occultist's horrifying death, Barbara looks around in confusion. She whispers, "Why didn't it work?" The ritual was supposed to bring Robert back, not summon monsters. She inspects the ritual markings and suddenly realizes the circle isn't complete. Something is missing. That's when Megan reaches into her pocket and slowly pulls out a photo, a childhood picture of her and Robert together. It was one of his most cherished possessions, and according to the ritual, everything he loved in life had to be burned. But Megan, unable to let go of that one last memory, had secretly kept it. Barbara is stunned. "That's why it didn't work," she says. "You were supposed to burn it." Realizing the danger they're in, she urgently tells Megan, "Burn it now, before it's too late." Megan hesitates for a moment. It's the last piece of her childhood, but knowing what's at stake, she throws the photo into the flames. Instantly, the circle ignites fully. All the candles around them flare up in unison, and a sudden wave of energy seals them inside. For the first time since the ritual began, they are safe, but only for now. they've finally crossed into the spirit realm. Panic sets in. The circle was meant to protect them, but with the occultist gone, they don't know how to complete the ritual or how to return home. Barbara is confused, scared, and desperate. Megan tries to stay calm, but things spiral quickly. They look around in fear until they finally see something. In the distance, emerging from the darkness, stands a grotesque figure. It's Robert, or at least his body, but it's not truly him anymore. His torso is torn, just like the entity from the film's opening scene. Several hands are growing out from his body, and his eyes now glow with an unnatural light. He is not their Robert. His body has been possessed by something evil. This was the horrifying image we saw in the film's beginning, and now the creature that wears Robert's face is eating the occultist's corpse. Megan whispers, "That's not my father." She backs away in fear, but Barbara refuses to believe it. She insists there's still a chance to complete the ritual, to call Robert's true spirit back into his body and return to their world. Megan asks, "How? We don't even know how to escape this place." Barbara admits that only the occultist had that knowledge, but she still believes if they can finish the ritual, maybe they'll find a way out. Now there's only one problem. They need Robert's body inside the circle to call his spirit back. But that body, now a possessed, blood-hungry creature, is outside and dangerous. Determined, Barbara takes a bold step. She cuts her hand, hoping that the smell of fresh blood will lure the creature closer. It works. Robert's possessed form creeps toward the circle, but it won't enter. In her desperation, Barbara accidentally extends her bleeding hand outside the protective boundary, and in an instant, the creature grabs her and pulls her into the darkness. Megan screams, but it's too late. Barbara is dragged away, kicking and screaming, until her voice fades. Megan can't leave the circle. Doing so would mean certain death. Moments later, blood begins to pool around the circle, signaling what she fears most. Barbara is gone. Megan is frozen with grief. In a single day, she has lost both of her parents, and now she is trapped in a strange, spiritual world with no idea how to escape. Exhausted and trembling, she sits down inside the circle and begins to cry. In a quiet, broken voice, she prays, "If anyone can hear me, please help me." But there's no answer. She's alone. Shadows pass nearby, spirits walking just outside the circle. Megan begs them for help, but they move on in silence. Suddenly, a massive, shadowy presence appears. A towering figure with glowing eyes approaches. It's unclear whether it's a demon, a spirit guide, or something older than either. Megan, consumed with rage and fear, screams at it to leave her alone. She throws something toward it, but the object bounces off an invisible barrier and lands back inside the circle. That's when Megan realizes something. The final sacrifice hasn't been made yet. Maybe the ritual isn't over. Maybe if she offers the third sacrifice, she can finish what they started and escape. It's a desperate thought, but in this moment, she has nothing left to lose. So, with trembling hands, Megan reaches for the ritual herb, and this time, she doesn't offer one finger. She cuts off two. She screams in pain, hoping this ultimate act will be enough, but nothing happens. The candles flicker but don't flare. The darkness doesn't retreat. The circle holds, but the spirits still wander, and the creature outside still waits. Time passes. Megan, now injured and weak, lies curled inside the circle, bloodied and hopeless. Then she hears it, a scratching sound coming from beneath the floorboards, the same sound she had once heard in her father's room days earlier. She crawls toward it and begins pulling at the floor. Her fingernails scrape against the wood until it gives way. Beneath the floor, she sees something. Her own house. A vision of home, as if on the other side of a mirror. She smiles through tears, believing she's found a way out. She climbs through. The space she enters looks like her childhood home. Everything is familiar. She walks through rooms filled with warmth and light. Then she sees herself as a child, and her father, Robert, both happy, both unaware. She runs toward them, trying to reach out. But as she touches the image, it freezes. The home is not real. It's a memory, a mirage. a world shaped by longing and nostalgia. Megan walks through it quietly, visiting each room and reliving her past. Then, understanding the truth, she whispers, "Goodbye," and lets go of the illusion. She returns to the ritual circle, alone, wounded, exhausted, and with nowhere else to go. Then she hears footsteps. She turns, and standing just beyond the candlelight is Barbara, but she's no longer the same. Her body is mutilated like Robert's. Her eyes glow. She is something else now, something unholy. Megan stares at her, heartbroken but calm. "I know you're not my mother," she says softly, "but I want to tell you something. I always misunderstood you. Even though everything you did was selfish, I know it came from love. And I love you too. I'm just tired now." She takes a deep breath and with trembling lips blows out the candle. The circle breaks. A blinding white light explodes around her. And then, silence. We may never know if Megan truly escaped that other world, but one thing is certain. She freed herself from the world inside her mind, a world shaped by her hatred for her mother and idealized love for her father. She finally saw the truth. Her father wasn't the man she had always imagined, and her mother wasn't as cruel as she had believed. She understood that neither of them were perfect, but both had tried, in their own flawed ways, to give her a good life. So Megan chose to accept them, with both their strengths and their mistakes. Sometimes, one person becomes your whole identity, just like Barbara had made Robert the center of her world. Without him, she couldn't even imagine her own life. Maybe that's why, before loving someone else, we must first learn to love ourselves, so that if they're ever gone, we can still move forward with our own life. Otherwise, we end up like Barbara and Robert, so consumed by love and loss that we forget who we are. And slowly, we cross the line into something we never meant to become.